Hope so.
Welcome to the Oklahoman's OU Tennessee pregame hangout. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, broadcasting from the newsroom at the Oklahoman, 9000 North Broadway in Oklahoma City. And I'm joined by our OU beat writers from Norman in the stands. As he overhears the Boomer Sooner cheer calls, OU beat writer Jason Kersey. And then from his congressional campaign, at least that's what his mugshot looks like. Looks like he's running for Congress, and I say that with all due respect. OU beat writer Ryan Aber. Ryan, we're only gonna. I guess you're joining us via voice because
I'm trying to get the video working, and it's not helping, not connecting right now for some reason.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of a cool effect where the your mugshot is there's a sound emanating from your mugshot. It's really kind of cool effect. So guys, let me ask you this: I saw your pregame video. I enjoyed those greatly. You guys kind of summarize what your pregame blog. You're doing a lot for readers as they get fired up and get ready for the game. You're giving a lot of sort of putting out a nice buffet. But you were standing there in the parking lot with a UT Winnebago in the background. And Jason, for as much as, you've been buddying up to the SEC the last 2 years, excerpting Paul Feinbaum's book, writing about the RV culture. Can a brother get a barbecue sandwich? I mean, can't you get invited to one of these things?
I didn't really try. In hindsight, I wish I had. But, I figured, like you said, I figured they'd just recognize me. But they didn't, so.
The SEC Network. When you get to be on the SEC Network, you will. Ryan, it looked like they'd already gone to the game. Give me an idea of what the Vol Navy is like there in Norman today.
There was quite a few Tennessee fans that we saw. We were hung out. My brother was actually tailgating down there, so we went there, and he was one of the few OU fans down there since it was the single game lot. But there's a ton of Tennessee UT fans, I guess, and a lot of orange, a lot of checkerboard patterns seen down there. I think this is a big time atmosphere for a college football game. I think. We got here to the stadium well before we normally do, and it was still pretty crowded pulling up to the stadium. So they definitely traveled well for this.
Jason, of course, the standard for a non-conference game, I think, was set by Notre Dame 2 years ago. We all sort of bathed in that atmosphere for the game, walked around, stewed in it. Anything like that? I mean, does it even rival that at all today with the UT in town?
It's cool to have to cover one of these games and see the non-conference matchup between two traditional powers. But no, I don't think it's even close to that Notre Dame game. Heck, Notre Dame at least brought their band.
What is the deal with that, Ryan Aber? That of all the things, Tennessee, Barry ranted and raved about this on the Football Friday hangout. You'd think a conference, a school, a member, a SEC member could scrape together enough dimes to get at least a pep band here. What's that going to do to this game, not even having the band?
Yeah. Well, I think it certainly takes a little out of it. It's one of the great things about college football is the bands and having them go back and forth with the fight songs, especially after scores. And especially in this game, have such iconic songs as Boomer Sooner on one side, Rocky Top on the other. Not to get to hear Rocky Top with the UT band is definitely disappointing that they weren't able to make it. This game's been scheduled for 9 years. You think they'd be able to scrape together something for this?
One thing I just noticed. Sorry to interrupt everybody, but one thing I just noticed, they have the end zone painted crimson. And that goes against what they usually do. Usually for non-conference games, they have the grass with the red Oklahoma. They must have changed their policy for this game. That's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird. Jason, is there a chance that the reason Tennessee didn't bring its band is because they don't think they'll really have much cause to play Rocky Top? The more I hear the more I really believe this could be a blowout.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it's going to be OU will get close to covering the spread, but at the same time, I mean, it is a talented team, and we know anything can happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is a pretty close game near halftime, and maybe OU pulls away in the second half. I mean, we know Tennessee has talent; they're just young.
Ryan, the Sooners, of course, they ended last season with 3 straight road wins at Kansas State, at Oklahoma State, and then at the Sugar Bowl over Alabama. This year, against far inferior foes to them in the competition they closed against last year. But the Sooners have left the first quarter with up 21-point leads, sort of done everything they could against bad teams. What is it that they need to do, or you're looking for them to do tonight?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me continues to be establishing different threats in the passing game outside of Sterling Shepard. We know how good Sterling Shepard could be. Last week, Deron Neal had a pretty good game. They got Blake Bell involved. But I think they've got to really buckle down on getting other people established. And I think this game is about perfect, and also getting Trevor Knight in a rhythm that sort of goes along with that. Trevor Knight's been very good the first couple weeks, but not Sugar Bowl good. And I think this is maybe a chance to get him going in that regard.
Jason, there was the last time I remember a big non-conference game, I guess, of course, Notre Dame 2 years ago. That was the James Harden game, as
right.
City remembers it. And then the time before that was the Stoops family reunion, in which Florida State came to town, and Bob was trying to not score mostly in the second half and run out the clock to keep the Sooners from embarrassing his brother's defense. This year, Stoops is in an unusual spot in that Oklahoma really needs a big, decisive win over Tennessee, a SEC team. But they also need Tennessee to go on and be Tennessee and do something in the SEC. And this game could sort of impact that. What do you think about that sort of paradox the Sooners find themselves in as it relates to this game?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need to win in convincing fashion. There's no doubt about that, and I think they will. But at the same time, I don't know that they necessarily need to run the score up. Or score unnecessary points. Or score unnecessary points. I mean, look at now that we have the college football playoff, there's not computer ratings that are really looking at margin of victory anymore, and I think that means that you don't really necessarily have to do things like that, maybe the way you used to when you were trying to impress a bunch of poll voters and computers.
Ryan, the Sooners, this game against Tennessee will be sort of a bridge game. It'll be one of the factors that allows the committee to compare whatever OU or a Big 12 champion is able to do. Of course, if it's Oklahoma, it'll be an easier comparison. You'll be able to look at how Alabama fared against the Vols and how the Sooners fared against the Vols. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being maybe the deciding factor in sorting all that out later in the season, and 1 being no factor, where do you think the Tennessee comparison will rank as important to the Sooners come college football playoff time?
Oh, I don't think I'd put it, a 9 or a 10, but I think certainly, around a 4 comparison probably, because you look at the Big 12 schedule and big non-conference games. And certainly, this is one, depending on see why.
Jason, we're having some audio.
Georgia, Florida, and then a non-conference game, and then Ole Miss and Alabama and South Carolina. So that's a heck of a run, but. I think that it's no doubt going to be a factor at the end when you look for comparison's sake.
Jason, I'll get you guys out of here on this. The Sooners play tonight, giving their fans a chance to sort of take in a lot of college football during the day. There's some interesting outcomes right now. The last time I checked, Iowa State was leading Iowa You have Tech behind Arkansas. Yeah, West Virginia going to College Park, Maryland, and beating Maryland, my Maryland. I don't know if you had a chance to see much of that game, but that's where the Sooners go next. How did the Mountaineers look to you?
They look a lot better than I think anybody thought they were going to be this year. Certainly playing with Alabama the way they did, and now beating Maryland. I'm very sorry for your loss, by the way. But yeah, I think that game next week looks a whole lot harder than anybody could have imagined. It's a night game in Morgantown. We know from watching OU 2 years ago that those aren't easy. And now this team looks like they can play a little bit too. So I definitely think that could be a trap game for OU next week.
Ryan Aber, the Sooners go there. They go back there for the first time since that Tavon Austin game. I just watching that Maryland West Virginia game, I had the distinct feeling that the wrong team was favored in that game. West Virginia looked like the better team. West Virginia, of course, gave Alabama all they wanted. I know we're looking past Tennessee, but do you really see West Virginia? Is it possible West Virginia is a dark horse contender in the Big 12?
Well, I don't know if their defense is quite there to label them a dark horse contender, but I think they're certainly a team that could jump up and beat anybody, and certainly in Morgantown, which OU is going to be at next week. Yeah, and I was really surprised that Maryland was favored in that game because I thought West Virginia played well entering that. Their offense is rolling along really well. And just hadn't seen anything from Maryland to make me think that they were going to jump up and win that game, even though it wasn't Maryland, and even considering their result last year.
It was a good game. Maryland shellacked them in the rain in Baltimore, but the odds makers gave Berry Tramel a very cheap, I would say, upset special win for the Big 12. Final words.
Yeah, I think that's great too.
Yeah, share with us what your big prediction is on your blog, Jason. What did you? What's your big prediction for tonight's game?
I sort of touched on it earlier. My prediction for the game is that it's going to be closer than we think at halftime. I still think OU pulls away and wins pretty convincing. I think early in the game, I think West Virginia, Tennessee's defensive front might give OU a little bit of trouble in running backs early, just because they're so talented, so much better than they've seen this year.
Ryan, what about it? You've got your predictions have centered on running backs in the past. What do you got for us this game?
Well, I went with Zach Sanchez getting an interception for the fourth consecutive game. He started in the Sugar Bowl. He's had an interception in each of the last two games. Got hurt late in the first half last week, didn't return. Wasn't sure if he was going to be back this week, but he has. He's been practicing all week, and I think because Tennessee is going to have to try to challenge OU down the field, Zach Sanchez is going to get some chances, and he's going to come down with an interception for the fourth consecutive game.
Thanks, guys. That's all for the Oklahomans OU Tennessee pregame, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day is okay, and every morning in the Oklahoman. Enjoy the game.
Thank you.